Hello and welcome to K News. This is Hardik Trivedi. Let's have a look on what is happening in India and in the world. Instead of going for a one-size-fits-all formula, the Power Ministry should put in place state-specific solution to help state improve their performance. In the sector, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said, reviewing the work of power, the new and renewable energy ministries on Wednesday evening. Modi pointed out that the problems in the power sector, especially of electricity distribution segment, vary across regions and states. Instead of looking for a one-size-fits-all solution, the ministry should put in place state-specific solution to intensive each state of improve its performance. An official statement issued on Thursday said, during the review, policy initiatives including revised tariff policy and the Electricity Amendment Bill 2020 to redress the problems affecting by the power sector were also discussed. The Prime Minister emphasized on the need to enhance consumer satisfaction while increasing operational efficiency and improving financial sustainability of the power sector. The statement said, Modi advised the Power Ministry to ensure that the distribution companies published their performance parameters periodically so that the people know how their provider fares in comparison to other peers. He also emphasized that equipment used in power sector be made in India. Regarding new and renewable energy, the Prime Minister emphasized on the need for a holistic approach for entire supply chain of the agriculture sector, ranging from solar water pumps to decentralized solar cold storages. He also pitched for innovative model of rooftop solar energy. He said every state should have at least one city, either the capital city or any renewed tourist destination, which is fully solar powered using rooftop solar power generation. Emphasis was also made on ecosystem development for manufacturing of ingots, wafer cells and modules in India, which would also help generate employment in addition to various other advantages. Modi also felt that the plan for carbon neutral Ladakh should be expedited. The Prime Minister also batted for drinking water supply in coastal areas by harnessing solar and wind energy, the statement said. India's trade with countries in South Asia has remained less than 4% of its global trade since the late 1980s, while China has increased its export to the region by 546% from $8 billion in 2005 to $52 billion in 2018, according to a study. The study by Brookings India, released on Tuesday, noted that South Asia remains one of the least economically integrated regions in the world. Intra-regional trade remains well below its potential at only 5% of the region's global trade because of protectionist policies, high logistic cost, lack of political will and a broader trust deficit. India's regional trade growth from 1991 until 1999 was minimal, according to the study. In 2008, India's trade with South Asian neighbors reached at a decadal high of $13.45 billion. Following a dip in 2009 due to the global crisis, India's trade with its neighboring doubled in the next 5 years, touching 24.69 billion in 2014. The showdown in India's export to South Asia in 2015 and 16 coincided with the 13% decline in India's global trade from 19 trillion in 2014 to 16.5 trillion in 2015. Intra-regional trade revived in 2017, reaching a peak at 24.75 billion and picking up further in 2018 when it rose to 36 billion, according to the study. India's largest export market in the region is Bangladesh, followed by Sri Lanka and Nepal, whereas the largest import by value from Myanmar, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. All countries in the neighborhood have a trade deficit with India, the highest in 2018 being Bangladesh 7.6 billion, followed by Nepal 6.8 billion. The study says that despite the growing trade volume, India's trade with its neighborhood has remained roughly between 1.7% and 3.8% of its global trade. A joint forum of Air India employees and staff unions has sought a rupees 15,000 crore financial succor from the government for the national carrier, stating that the airlines is a necessity for the country. In a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the joint forum said that Air India is a necessity for the country, especially in times of crisis, and the financial package will not only help the flag carrier but also the entire aviation sector and the economy. The Prime Minister earlier this month announced a rupees 20 lakh crore package, which combined the government earlier announcement on supporting key sectors as also measured rollout by the Reserve Bank of India to help revive the economy amid the coronavirus pandemic crisis. Leading rating agencies have forecast the Indian economy to contract by 5% in the current fiscal due to the impact of the crisis. We thank you for the financial package of 20 lakh crores to boost industry and the economy. As you will agree, the civil aviation is of paramount importance in today's context, and therefore it is extremely necessary to boost the aviation industry and restore normal operations at the earliest, which is crucial for the economy to stabilize. In view of this, we request you to kindly grant Air India a financial package of rupees 50,000 crore, which will go a long way to ensuring that Air India emerges as the strongest and best airlines of India. The joint forum said in a letter, stating that Air India has once again played a crucial role for the nation by bringing back stranded Indians from all parts of the world, including several offline stations at a time when airlines all over the world has ceased operations due to the pandemic. The forum said that the carrier, even at peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, operated flights to and from Wuhan, which is the origin and the center point of the coronavirus. Besides, Air India staffs went out of the way at considerable personal risk to ensure smooth operations of several cargo and charter flights all through this period, thereby facilitating the smooth movement of medicines and medical equipment between India and many other countries, including China. Air India has always performed national duties irrespective of the serious risk involved. It said, adding, it has been established beyond doubt that Air India is a necessity for the country, especially in times of crisis. The top court directed the states to provide food to the migrants wait for their turn to board train or bus. The Supreme Court on Thursday ordered the center to ensure free travel to stranded migrants to their home states by trains and buses, even as the government contended that it is taking unprecedented steps to meet the challenging crisis during the COVID-19 lockdown. The top court also directed the states to provide food to the migrants wait their turn to board train or bus. The states should set up help desks to disseminate information about arrangements made for migrant workers. The railways too have been ordered to provide food during the course of the travel. Two anti-inflammatory drugs, one prescribed for humans and another for animals, may inhibit a key enzyme in the replication or reproduction of the novel coronavirus that causes COVID-19, according to a study. The study published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences used computer techniques to analyze 6,466 drugs authorized by various drug agencies for both human and veterinary use. The researchers from University Rovira in Spain assessed whether these drugs could be used in inhibit the main protest of the coronavirus enzyme, which plays an essential role in the replication of the virus. They found that a human and a veterinary anti-inflammatory drug, carprofen and celecoxib, inhibit a key enzyme in the replication and transcription of the virus responsible for COVID-19. Finding drugs that can inhibit the infection caused by the SARS-CoV-2 in an essential step to finding the vaccine that can definitely bring the spread of the virus to an end. According to the researchers, enzymes is responsible for cutting two polypeptides generated by the virus itself and generating a number of proteins that are essential for the reproduction of the virus, the researcher said. Some of the trials coordinated by WHO against the COVID-19 pandemic also aim to inhibit MPRO using two antiretrovirals such as lopinavir and ritonavir, initially designed to treat HIV, they said. In the new study, the researcher predicted that 7 of the 6,466 drugs analyzed may inhibit MPRO. The results have been shared with the International Initiative of Scientists, COVID Moonshot, which has selected 2 of these 7 compounds, carprofen and celecoxib, in order to test their ability to inhibit MPRO in vitro. The findings show that at a concentration of 50 micromolar of celecoxib and carprofen, the inhibition of the vitro activity of the MPRO enzyme is 11.90 and 4% respectively. It's time for a short break. We'll join you in a short while.
వేసవి అవుతుంది ఫన్ విత్ కూలర్ నంబర్ 1. ఇక చేసుకో మోర్ ఫన్ ఉంటే కూలర్ నంబర్ 1. ఇక డోంట్ రన్ ఫ్రమ్ ద సన్ ఉంటే గెల్తా నంబర్ 1.
Welcome back to K News and thank you for watching. Let's continue the streak of news. China's parliament approved a decision on Thursday to go forward with national security legislation for Hong Kong that democracy activists in the city and Western countries fear could erode its freedoms and jeopardize its role as a global financial hub. China says the legislation will aim to tackle secession, subversion, terrorism and foreign interference in the city. But the plan, unveiled in Beijing last week, triggered the first big protest in Hong Kong for months. Riot police were out in the force in Hong Kong as its lawmakers debated another piece of legislation, a bill to criminalize disrespect of China's national anthem. While the United States piled on pressure aimed at preventing the city's autonomy, dozens of protesters gathered in a shopping mall to chant slogans, but there was no repeat of disturbances. The previous day, when police made 360 arrests and thousands took to the streets in anger over the anthem bill and the national security legislation proposed by China. Last year, the city was rocked for months by often violent pro-democracy demonstrations over the unsuccessful bid to introduce a law governing extradition to China. The Chinese government security law for the city is fueling fear in Hong Kong, and beyond that, Beijing is imposing its authority and eroding the high degree of autonomy in former British colony has enjoyed under a one country two system formula since its return to Chinese rule in 1997. Members of China's mostly rubber-stamp parliament, the National People's Congress in the Great Hall of the People to the west of Beijing, burst into prolonged applause when the tally showed 2,870 votes to 1 in favor of moving forward with legislation, with 6 abstentions. Details of the law are expected to be drawn up in coming weeks. It is expected to be enacted before September. Chinese authorities and the Beijing-backed government in Hong Kong say there is no threat to the city's autonomy and the new law would be tightly focused. China's Premier Li Keqiang said law would be good for Hong Kong's long-term stability and prosperity, and the one country two system formula would remain a national policy. The Punjab police on Thursday busted a drug smuggling racket, seizing 8 kg of heroin valued at Rs 40 crore from a wheat field in the border district of Taran and arrested a smuggler who had allegedly buried the narcotic. The seizure was made by the anti-narcotic cell of Taran police in a joint operation with BSF. The drug was buried in the wheat field situated across the barbed wire fence and ahead of the zero line near Ratauke village of Bikhibind subdivision on the India-Pakistan border. Police also arrested one Gurulal Singh of Ratauk village who had allegedly buried the heroin concealed in plastic bottles. Police suspect the drug was smuggled from across the border. According to the police, Gurulal and his accomplices, who are yet to be identified, has been in contact with Pakistani smugglers. Senior Superintendent of Police Taran Dhruv Dahiya said besides heroin they have also recovered 30 gram opium from the border. We were tipped off the Gurulal had buried a contraband of heroin in the wheat field near the barbed wire fence ahead of the zero line. Various teams under the supervision of Deputy Superintendent of Police Kamaljit Singh were formed. The teams with the help of BSF personnel conducted search operations near the fence, and during this 5 plastic bottles filled with heroin that were buried in the wheat field were recovered. The total contraband's weight is 8 kg and 30 grams. Senior Superintendent of Police Taran Dhruv Dahiya said. He said Gurulal was arrested from the village. The contraband is worth Rs 40 crore in the international market, DSP Kamaljit Singh said. The SSP said the preliminary investigations has revealed that Gurulal is a smuggler and had earlier been booked for attempt murder. Also under the Arms Act in 2015, after he along with his accomplice allegedly attempted to cross the border and opened fire at the BSF to smuggle heroin from across the border. He was also booked in 2019 for allegedly attempt to break open an ATM machine with a gas cutter at Chambal village. China's new muscular policy will have an impact on its ties with India and other nations, a senior US diplomat has said, underlining that the world is finally recognizing that Beijing is pushing a form of problematic governance. The US is currently involved in the tense showdown with China on the issues of trade, the origins of the novel coronavirus pandemic, Beijing's new security crackdown in Hong Kong, and the communist nation's aggressive military moves in the disputed South China Sea. The actions China is taking are going to have impact and not just in across the straits. Assistant Secretary of State for Eastern Asian and Pacific Affairs David Stilwell told reporters at a news conference on Wednesday. It is going to have impact in Southeast Asia. It's going to have impact with the neighbor India and others. This newly muscular and aggressive approach is going to make the defense minister job a lot harder. Mr. Stilwell was responding to a question on the statement made by the Chinese Defense Minister General Wei Fang over the weekend that China-US strategic confrontation has entered a period of high risk and we must strengthen our fighting spirit and use fighting to promote stability. Mr. Fang's remark came amid rising tensions between China and the US and soaring ties between Beijing and Taipei. China views Taiwan as a rebel province that must be reunified with the mainland, even by force. China claims nearly all of the South China Sea, though Taiwan, the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia and Vietnam claim parts of it. Mr. Stilwell said the world is finally recognizing that China is pushing a form of government that many only now are belonging to recognize as problematic. This most recent step from the National People's Congress in walking away from its obligations with respect to Hong Kong only demonstrates that more clearly. He said China on Friday last introduced the draft of a controversial national security law in Hong Kong in its parliament to tighten Beijing's control over the former British colony in what could be the biggest blow to the territory's autonomy and personal freedoms since 1997 when it came under Chinese rule. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey today reinforced his stance on pointing out incorrect or disputed information about elections globally, a day after US President Donald Trump threatened to shutter social media over Twitter section on his post. Mr. Dorsey appealed to leave our employees out of this, as the face-off with Mr. Trump is likely to escalate. Fact check, there is someone ultimately accountable for our action as a company, and that is me. Please leave our employees out of this. We will continue to point out incorrect or disputed information about elections globally, and we will admit to and own any mistakes we make, Mr. Dorsey tweeted. This does not make us an arbiter of truth. Our intention is to correct the dots of conflicting statements and show the information in dispute so people can judge for themselves. More transparency from us is critical so folks can clearly see the why behind our actions, said the Twitter CEO. Twitter has tagged two of Mr. Trump's tweets in which he claimed that more email-in voting would be lead what he called rigged election this November. There is no evidence that attempts are being made to rig the election, and under the tweets, Twitter posted a link which read, "Get the facts about the mail-in ballots." 5 states in the US already conduct elections primarily by mail-in vote: Utah, Colorado, Hawaii, Washington, and Oregon. For years, Twitter has been accused of ignoring the US president's violation of platform rules with its daily, often hourly barrages of personal insults and inaccurate information sent to more than 80 million followers. But Twitter's slap on the wrist was enough to drive Mr. Trump into tirade on Twitter, in which he claimed that political right in US is being censored. Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservative voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen, Mr. Trump said. He said that an increase in mail-in ballots seen in some states as vital for allowing people to avoid crowds during the COVID-19 pandemic will undermine the election. It would be free for all on cheating, forgery, and the theft of ballots, wrote Mr. Trump, whose re-election campaign has been knocked off track by the coronavirus crisis. His torrent of angry tweets earned a top 10 trending hashtags Mr. Trump meltdown. Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg also waded into a row, telling Fox News that his social network, still the biggest in the world, has different policy. I just believe strongly that Facebook should not be the arbiter of truth of everything that people say online, Mr. Zuckerberg said in a snippet of the interview posted online Wednesday by Fox. I think in general private companies, especially these platform companies, should not be in the position of doing that. Boston Consulting Group, a US-based consulting firm, is assisting India's health ministry in its fight against COVID-19. BCG, headquartered in Boston and with a presence in 50 countries, is best known for providing strategic advice to businesses and governments on management solutions. On its website, there is no specific mention of its expertise in responding to the public health crisis like the present pandemic. Boston Consulting Group is privileged to work with government stakeholders in preparing for the fight against COVID-19, including scenario mapping, planning responses, and analyzing trends. As a matter of policy, BCG cannot comment on the specifics of the work, BCG said in a statement. The Health Ministry declined to comment. BCG's role came to light when the government shared estimates by different agencies and experts, including the Statistics and Program Implementation Ministry, of the number of deaths and infections averted by the lockdown. The government had shared 5 different estimates, of which BCG's number were the highest. The consulting group's projections said that between March 25 and May 15, about 36 to 70 lakh cases were avoided and 1.2 to 2.1 lakh lives were saved because of the lockdown. These were almost double the estimates given by others, which projected that about 14 to 29 lakh cases were avoided and anywhere between 37,000 to 78,000 deaths were averted. It is, however, unclear how BCG arrived at these numbers. Multiple experts we spoke to said that the information shared by the government on BCG projections does not give enough details to ascertain the basic of forecast. In addition to making projections, BCG has also been stationed in the Health Ministry COVID-19 control room. While the chairman of BCG India, Janmejay Sinha, declined to comment on the specific details of the work they do for the ministry, he confirmed that there is a BCG team working in the Health Ministry. That's all for now. Keep watching K News. This is Hardik Trivedi taking your leave. Be alert, be positive, be safe.